and welcome back to the Closeted Soul podcast. It is such an honor to have you here as always. For this week's audio, I always get confused now because I have two components to this actual podcast now. So I'm jumping between audio and video. But those of you who are listening to this on audio, note that there is a video component on YouTube as well that you can actually catch these episodes. But today, I have the privilege of talking to Alannah. I am so excited to have you on the podcast again. Actually, we're refilming this, so thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm excited that we get to do this again, even though no one else got to hear the first one, but it's an opportunity for us to reconnect. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. And I'm in full trust and surrender mode with the universe. I'm like, if something needs to be refilmed, I trust that that's exactly how it needed to be because, yeah, it was that Mercury retrograde. There was this intense period of Mercury retrograde and it really it was really there to teach me some lessons. So it's been fun. It's been interesting. But yes, today
We
I'm
need
so
to learn.
excited. Sorry?
We really need to learn on that one sometimes.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm like, I used to really dread the Mercury retrogrades. I used to be like, fuck, I don't want it to be Mercury retrograde. I used to get really anxious about filming a podcast because I would always have like car troubles or electronic troubles. But it's been such an incredible learning curve. And Mercury is really just trying to teach us, like, just to have a different perspective when it comes to this sort of stuff. So, definitely, lesson learnt, Mercury, please. Take it easy on me now.
I have a tendency to just I'm that meme that's like, what is happening? What's going on? There's got to be something happening. I have no idea what's happening up there in the sky most of the time, but on occasion I'm just like, there has to be something going on up there because there is no other explanation for whatever is happening down here
Down
because it's
here.
crazy.
Yes, it really does affect you. Like you can actually feel like the planetary cycles. I'm actually at the point, Alana, where I can feel when the full moon's coming. I can feel it a couple of days beforehand. It's like my I've just watched Spider-Man recently, so I'm thinking about Spidey senses. But
You're,
it's like Spidey senses, but with the moon. And it's like I can feel it.
you're Peter Tingle? No,
Yeah, my
sorry.
Peter tingle. Yeah. Yes.
I I'm sorry to everyone who loved the first couple. I watched the first Spider-Man ever and really still to this day want my time back. I absolutely hated it. And then it took me until this round of Spider-Mans to finally get into it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. These ones were good.
Yeah, no, I'm actually there with you. Yeah, and I have such a crush on Peter. It's not even funny. Like Tom
I'm
Holland.
I ship is okay. Is shipping still the thing? Is that still the
Yeah.
word? I am here for Tom Holland and
Oh,
Zendaya. Oh
oh, right?
my word.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh. I'm
it's
crushing on both of them. I love him.
right. I love them each. I love them separate. I love them together.
Yes.
I am just hardcore crushing on that couple.
Oh, I'm there with you. I'm there with you. Get back on track, but no, I'm loving that you love Spider-Man just as much as I do the new Spider-Man because I'm there with you with the old one. Not here for the old ones, but for Tom Holland and Zendaya, I'm here.
Okay.
But before we get into it, let's introduce you to the listeners so they know who you are. But just a background as well. I met Alannah through Soul Teacher, that course that I will I'm non-stop yapping on about.
For good reason.
So empowering to have met so many women in the same space and to be doing this work. It really, yeah, it's been a life-changing experience. There's no other way to put it but life-changing. So do you mind explaining to the listeners a little bit about, who you are, what you do, all of the things?
Okay. Well, I'm going to start this the same way I started the first round that we did this. Hi, I'm Alannah, and I am a manifesting generator. Um, and that is just, if you have any idea about human design, that is the most succinct way that I can possibly describe myself. So by day, I have a career in human resources and teach yoga and fitness classes, but as an MG, I teach meditation and personal training and all the different types of fitness and the whole thing. And then by night, I am not a closeted uh, coach, reader, energy, whatever kind of thing. So I label myself, and we'll talk about that tonight, I'm sure, or in this next little chunk of time. I label myself as a soul alignment guide or soul alignment coach. And really that came out of this whole component of we are all here to do what we do best. We are all here to share our energy to the best way we possibly can. And we've all picked up so much from our multiple lifetimes that there's really there's no one size fits all. So my work, or how I see my work, is to hopefully help other people to better understand and better align with and better own and find the power of their true selves, their true nature, their true energy. And I do that through energy reading. I do that through kind of understanding the chakra system. I do that through human design. And then I'm a trained coach as well, so I do it through coaching practices, and then mostly it's just whatever I feel called to that person kind of needs to hear or receive. And I do it with the Akashic records as well. So yes, hi, my name's Alannah, and I'm a manifesting generator. It's the
Oh
short
my
form.
goodness. That has been the best introduction I have heard thus far because that is hilarious and I relate to that on so many levels. I love everything that you said because that right there is 100% just Manny Gen right there, just doing all of the things. Oh my goodness. Like, I remember when I first started in this industry, I was trying so hard to niche myself because I'm a manager as well. And I'm just like, it is
Yeah.
genuinely not possible. Like, it just goes against everything that I am. Like, we are just here to do all of the things and be all of the things. So I love that. But I love how you have like an overall mission statement. Like, that is what you're here to do. How you do that can look however you want it to look. And, you know, it's ever changing, which is incredible. Something else that just came online as I was listening to you was that so many of us in the Soul Teacher program are actually Manny Gens. Have you realized that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because there are so many people in the spiritual community who are projectors, like who are teaching and they're
Yes.
projectors. um but yeah, no, there are a lot of us within that space that are mangens for sure. um and yeah, we're all having that same like, how do I niche, what do I do? But yeah, we don't niche. And I also just remembered a story of back when I was younger. My mom was very spiritual, and she brought me to a tea leaf reader. And I went to this tea leaf reader probably 3 or 4 different times. And I remember, I think it was the second time I went to her, I was like in my early 20s or like my late teens. I was in university, and she said to me, "You're going to be someone who always has more than one job." And I grew up very close to the poverty line, like right hovering it. And to me, like I was thinking about it from the perspective of like not having a single source of income that was enough to survive.
Yes.
And so I was like,
Ah.
no, don't make me only, like, I only want one job. I just want one job. I just want one income that like pays my bills and that I feel comfortable with and that is solid. And then, of course, my entire life, I have always had multiple jobs, but it's because I have one stable income and then like everything else that I love to do. Like,
Oh,
well, came out a
yes.
different way, but yeah, it's okay to have more than one job and be okay with that. But it's really hard to label yourself. And when someone asks you, like, hey, who are you? What do you do? And you're like, how do I say this?
I'm everything and nothing at the same time. I love it.
Right?
I love it. Oh my goodness. Yes. You know what? There's like such a good message in that little story as well, because that just shows you the power of perspective. So when you were in that low place, right? And you were near the poverty line, that's how you interpreted that piece of information. Whereas now if you had received it with where you are today, you'd be like, "Fuck yeah, that makes so much sense. I'm a Manny Jen."
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I'd be like, no, it's totally cool. Of course, I have multiple jobs. Like, I have multiple interests. So it just makes sense that I would. And I think that's the other thing is that the piece that I left out is that I am a teacher. And so I do remember, again, doing all those personality assessments as a child and all those career counseling things. And they were like, you're going to be a teacher or a counselor. And I was like, no, because again, to me at that time, being a teacher meant being an elementary school teacher or a high school teacher. It didn't mean being a spiritual teacher, a spiritual best friend, a coach, a guide, a whatever. It was no being a teacher.
That is
So
hilarious.
yeah, age, perspective, experience,
Mm.
just where you're at, and that ability to grow and change. And I wow, we're just going to jump right in. I feel like that's one of the things that we really struggle with right now is we and this goes to what we were talking about Instagram versus like podcasts and YouTube is Instagram is so short form that you have to it breeds a ground for being binary. You're right or wrong, yes or no. This is my perspective, and this is the only perspective I have. And there's no leniency or ability to deeply explain a complicated subject because you have such a short window of time or such a short attention span on it. And that leads to this experience where we have to label ourselves because this social media platform is telling us that we have to, and it doesn't allow for a larger conversation. So this type of longer form conversation is so needed in this space where we can explain a little bit more deeply, like, I have multiple dimensions to me. This is just the one that's showing up right
A-
now here.
Absolutely. No, I love everything that you said, because this is something that has been coming up really strongly for me, having Instagram as a platform. I think like social media, obviously, it's such an incredible tool that we can use, but it can also be really, really detrimental to our growth. And it can be really easy to get kind of sucked in by it and controlled by it and influenced by it in a negative way. So, something that I've been really, really, really taking so seriously as of lately is not allowing the app to use me. I'm using the app, right? So, like, really changing my perspective, being mindful when on there, and not mindlessly scrolling. And it's really, really powerful to approach it in that way. And that's why I personally am drawn to like more podcasts and YouTube, because you have that extra time with someone where you can actually dive deep into a story and you can get really real and personable and relate on a deeper level. Instagram seems very artificial.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the nature of the platform. It's the nature of
Mm.
that short form consumable. And you're consuming it on the go. So it makes sense and it has a place. And I use it for my Tom Daya um, consumption for sure. But that's kind of like all I'm using it for right now, to be honest.
Fair enough. No
But it
judgment
is.
here.
It's like it's entertainment versus education um or even just really getting to understand the perspective. It is really good for sound bites, don't get me wrong. It's but I even find myself kind of getting a little like, and I always have to question every single time I'm like gonna go post something. I'm like, is this binary? Is this something that is is it a gray issue and I'm portraying it as black and white
Mm.
because
Yes.
the joys of being in human resources, every shade of gray you think you've ever seen before in your life isn't actually the same shade of gray as the one that looked just like it that you saw yesterday. It's a new shade.
Yes.
Um, so it's this like, can you work in all the shades? And yeah, and Instagram is definitely not a platform that really is conducive towards that.
Yes, and I feel like there are two sides to this, and I think it's such a. Do you have like an open ajna center or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah.
do. So you
Oh
got
yeah.
the ability to like see all of the perspectives because I'm exactly like that. It makes it really hard to have these sorts of conversations, especially on a place like Instagram where you only have a short period of time with someone because yeah, you are thinking about like all the possible perspectives that are out there. And I think like what is really important and something that we were talking about earlier before we even started this conversation, so I love that it's coming up because I think it's important, is giving people that freedom, right? Giving people that the freedom to choose like actually, yes, I want to consume this content or I want to consume this person's opinion, but allowing them to know that they have dominion over their own like thoughts, beliefs. Like they don't have to take on what you say. Everyone is powerful in their own right, and you get to choose what you take and what you leave. And I think that that is just, yeah, so important to highlight because I think it's somewhere along the line as of recently, I feel like it's really missing in the spiritual community specifically. People are out there projecting, but they're not really, or not many people are reminding people that they should use their intuition to decide this makes sense to me or no, this doesn't make sense to me.
100%. Yeah, like there's so much of the you're with me or you're against me kind of experience out there right now. And there's it it's just it's not that straightforward. That said, I mean, I definitely do have some very strong opinions on many topics that are current and out there in the world right now. But and I do unfollow certain people because of those opinions and everything. But with that, as you said, it's so important for all of us to do a much better job of understanding what what to put our energy behind, what to put our energy into. So, one of my biggest conversations these days, to anyone who will listen, conversations to anyone who will listen. Yeah, as in,
I
I'm
love
on a
that.
soapbox preaching. Um, caught myself there. Um, is this piece of there's a lot going on in the world right now, and a lot of what's happening are distractions. They're like, it they are somebody's battle, they are somebody's fight, they're somebody's leg for to put their stake in the ground, whatever. But it doesn't have to be everyone's. And so there's a lot of discord that's happening around right and wrong, this and that. And in reality, my question to a lot of people is that where you want to be spending your energy?
Yes. I'm there with you. No, I'm there with you. And we all know what we're talking about. It's like pretending like we're like beating around the bush. We all know what we're talking about. But I am exactly there with you. Yeah. What are you buying into? Are you feeding into that paradigm? You know, like it is, oh my goodness. Like, yes, so many things are happening around us. And yes, we can hold our opinions. And actually, who I find myself unfollowing are the teachers who were preaching, you know, intuition, higher self, the importance of like, you know, mind over matter, that sort of stuff. But then coming like recent events completely changed their vibe, went into preacher. Either way, whether you're for or against, but like forcing that on people has really turned me off because I'm like, whoa, you're just buying into division again. Because like then we go back to the problems of the world, what's never worked in the past, which is division, whether it's religion, whether it's country, like just in every aspect, right? Division has is what keeps us small. Division is what keeps us from actually ascending. And whether you're spiritual or not, or I don't care about your like your standpoint, you know, or how incredible your platform is or where you are right now, like are you seriously sitting here preaching division knowing everything you know about the universe? And I think it's Manifestation Babe who had this perspective that really, really inspired me. And I was like, teachers need to be more like this. And she's not preaching her opinion on current situations that are happening in the world because that's not her place. She's not here to influence you in that sense. You have the power to decide, you know, I'm going to take this on or I'm not going to take this on. And right now, we live in a world of knowledge. Like, we have access to so much information out there. Go out there and do your own research. Decide what you're going to take, what you're not going to take. Use your intuition to guide you. What feels right, what doesn't feel right, and go that way. Like, if lots of spiritual teachers out there right now telling you what you should and you shouldn't do, and it's if anyone's telling you what you should and shouldn't do in any aspect of life, they're not coming from a higher self place.
I'm gonna say yes and.
Can't wait.
I love what you said, and I do agree that like it is important to really test things out and try things on. And at the same time, I'm not a PhD in medical science, nor am I ever going to be. So who am I to interpret the research?
True.
I
Yeah,
am
that's true.
not that person. So for me, but yes, like the whole like the core of it is this piece of minimizing everything to something that's binary when there's a lot of nuance. Um and it really it is this piece of all of us deciding where we want to put our energy. And I don't want to put my energy into something that to me is just so like simple. Like whatever. Like I don't care. Like so, I have to do something. Okay, whatever. Fine. I have to do something. Like, oh darn, I have to put my mask on. Like I don't care. I don't
Yes.
care.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not it doesn't impact my life. It doesn't influence how I behave out in the world. I am not choosing that as a place to put my energy. I
And I
want to
love it.
talk about other life choices. I want to talk about us living our highest expression. And when we're drawing it down to something like those are the things that I consider to be a distraction because somebody is pointing at them saying, you have to care about this. And if you don't care about this, then you're not ascending. You're not spiritual. If you don't care that someone's telling you what to do, people are telling you what to do all the time. I care that the US is telling me as a female that I don't even live in the States, but I live right next to them. I care that they're telling me I couldn't get an abortion if I needed to. I care about that personally. And so again, this kind of goes to this whole concept of we all get to choose where we put our energy. I choose that I'm not going to put my energy against a mask or for me against a vaccine. Like I'm not going to put my energy there. I might put my energy against something to do with abortion rights or something to do with climate change. Like I put my energy around making sure that I'm supporting really good quality food sources and that I'm eating a whole food plant-based diet because to me that's going to impact the global world. But again, I'm not going to go around like you have to this because again, then you're minimizing an issue because there isn't a one size fits all. I've been in the fitness world long enough to know. I've been in the health world long enough to know. I've been in the coaching world long enough to know. And I've been in human resources long enough to know. Not every shade of gray is the same bloody shade of gray.
Exactly right. I totally, totally agree. And that's exactly where my energy was as well for a long, long, long time. And then I ended up getting like kind of sucked into it all at one point, and I had to dig my way out of that. So that's why I'm like at the standpoint that I am now. And I totally love everything that you're saying, because as I was meditating on like, global situations that were happening in the world, because obviously it's affecting all of us, but I was sitting there thinking, first of all, Sahara Rose actually did a really good podcast episode about it. And it was this concept of we're not even supposed to know what's happening worldwide. Like it's not normal to know about all of like the stuff happening in other countries. Like it is not normal, and it's actually increasing to like mass anxiety that we're all like experiencing as a collective, because it feels like the world is constantly ending. And even that perspective alone, I was like, that is so true.
One of the other concepts that I've really been sitting with recently is to focus on, and this, I mean, it goes back to the same concept, but it's this focus on your own ripple of energy. So you have, like, imagine yourself as a drop in a pool, a stone falling into a pool, and you have a ripple of energy. And the intensity of your energy exists in those immediate ripples, and then it ripples out and ripples out and ripples out. But where are, like, what do you want that energy to be? And that's just so important. And at the same time, focus on your own ripples. Like, you don't need to focus on the ripples that are so far away from you. And again, there's a woman on YouTube who's part of like the sustainability movement, and I think it's Shell Bizzle, and I forget exactly what she says, so I'm gonna mess this up. But essentially, it's along the lines of, you can't do all the good in the world, but the world needs all the good you can do. And I'm like, yes, yes,
That's
just
beautiful. I love that.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly right. Nah, that
you
that
can't
is
you can't do
perfect.
everything. So do what you can do, and that's what's needed. And that goes back to human design. It goes back to being someone who is really focused on growing and developing who you are, and you are the only one of you. So, and you're going to have a diversity of thoughts and opinions on any given topic, even if you don't have an open Ashna.
I love that. No, that's perfectly said, and I think that quote like encompasses everything that we're saying. All you can focus is wait, what? All you can focus on is you. Goodness, English. But I love also the analogy. No, I love the analogy of the ripple as well, like focusing on the ripple effect, what you're putting out there. So all of it beautifully said. I love that we've just gone on a tangent, because that's many gens for you.
I know, I remember, like, we were like, okay, we're going to try and like
Talk
stick to a
about
topic. I'm like, whoopsies.
no, we've actually gone all over the place. Spider-Man, like world global issues.
So that, I mean, that brings me back to Manny Gens, is like, I was having a conversation with somebody about, I was part of Toastmasters, and we were talking about something that was like in depth, it was deep, it was like concentrated. And then the next second he walks back over and he's like, "Are you talking about The Bachelor?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am. I am talking about The Bachelor right now. Thank you
I
very
love
much."
it.
And that's the thing. We can just jump all over the place because we can. That's how our brain works, and our energy works. Like, it's just, it's fine. Okay, but that said,
Bringing it
let's
back
keep
in.
this somewhat on track
Yes.
of, even though that's what human design says, that's not the only explanation.
Hmm. I love it.
And I get that a lot when people like reply to or post comments on my YouTube video. They're like, "Well, I don't resonate with this," or "I'm right facing, but I love structure in my life." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like, that's totally fine. You don't have to, just because it's Mercury retrograde, same thing, manifestation babe. She said on a podcast recently how, like, she launches on Mercury retrogrades
She
and
did
it
say
goes
that.
perfectly. And it's this whole thing of like, just because a personality assessment tells you one thing, just because your astrology tells you another thing, my astrology should tell me who I am. I am a Pisces sun Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon. Like, I, no. Astrology has like, I'm like, I don't resonate with any of this at all. But because I'm like, it should be very visible and I should resonate with that. But it's this whole concept of like, you take little things from toolboxes over here and little essences from over there. And it's not one size fits all. It's not one tool that tells us who we are. And we're constantly searching because I think we're constantly searching to remember, really. That's really what's happening. Is we've gone through this process of forgetting as we come to this human form, and then we are going on this process to try to remember, and because of that we are grasping at these systems and these guideposts and these tools, trying so hard to figure it out and piece it all together. And then we look at that one thing and we're like, well, that's who I am. This one thing is who I am. It's like, no, you are a soul that has lived multiple lifetimes and you've collected little rocks and trinkets and seashells from every single one of those lifetimes. You are not this one thing because you were born on this date. So yes, even though I use human design, it is not a be all and end all system and tool. It's a way to explain some of the way that our energy is interacting, but it's not who you are.
I love that. And I think it is so, I think it goes back to everything that we've been saying, right? To this, like, don't put all of your power into other things. Like, come back to what feels right intuitively. Like, if you resonate with astrology and you're like, yeah, fuck, this explains me. Now I have something to put to the way that I feel. Like, I have something that describes the way that I feel that I haven't been able to put into words, because that's what actually that's what human design was for me. I never understood like Manny Gens, and I thought that my inconsistency and my wanting to be everywhere was actually a was like kind of inhibiting my growth, right? And I thought that, I because I was inconsistent and because I wanted all these different things, that I was like flaky, and I made all these stories up because of it. But understanding that, no, like, this is the way that you're made up, this is how your energy works, I've been able to work with myself now rather than against myself. So it's like two perspectives, right? Two sides of the same coin. You decide, And then for you, I can't believe you're a Scorpio moon, by the way. So am I.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, they're really deep. I'm like, I get you. When you said Scorpio moon, I'm like, girl, I get you.
But in human design, I'm a non-emotional.
That's interesting.
So yeah,
Okay.
so it's Pisces, Scorpio, Scorpio, non-emotional.
That is really interesting. So that's why you're like, I don't resonate with my astrology at all. And that's completely okay. Like, you take what works, leave what doesn't. So going back to what we were actually going to talk about in this episode, but I've loved the conversation, honestly. It's great. I love going all over the place because I trust that everything that was said needed to be said. So going back to what we were wanting to talk about. So who do you visit in the Akashic records? Maybe you can give us some background.
I I think I visit my Akashic Council.
Yeah, love it.
But again, this is the human need to label something. So, what I do is I set the intention to only receive for the highest and greatest good. They're only from the highest source of light that I can connect with at that time. Um, and that I receive the messages that are needed to be received in a way that they can be received by those hearing them. So, with that, I do what Nikki taught us, which was I go to my place of nature and I meet with a spirit guide. And this one spirit guide is pretty much, he's the guide who directs me. So when I go and I meet with him, sometimes we stay where we are in that place of nature and I just receive the message there. Sometimes we go up to the Akashic realm and I receive the message there. And sometimes we go into a little door and go down into the underworld and I receive a message there. So I know that what I'm connecting with is only for the highest and greatest good. It's only in the purest light. But as far as like what, it kind of just depends, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, mostly it's my akashic council. Usually it's in their room. Sometimes it's in a courtyard, and sometimes it's somewhere else.
I love that. No, I resonate with that as well because I had a couple of people asking me, what are your guides' names? And I connect to extraterrestrials and high dimensional extraterrestrials. So sometimes they don't even have like physical form and it's hard for me to even see them. I'm just connecting to an energy. But the way that you can tell, yes, is the feeling that you get behind the frequency that's coming to meet with you, right? And just your intention alone, that's powerful. That's already setting the scene for you. So the fact that you do that, that's all you need to
And
do.
I've always had very strong boundaries. So, like, I was that child who I knew there were energies. I knew there were ghosts. I knew there were ETs. I knew there was stuff. And I never once saw anything. I played with magic. I like the whole gamut. I did all the things. But I never saw anything, and I realized as I got older, I was like, oh, it's like I set those boundaries young. And I set them real strong, and now they just know not to mess with me.
No, I love that. I love that. I'm like, that's
They don't.
exactly all it is. Like, they can't mess with you as long as you set those boundaries. So, I love that you've done that. So, what we were going to do for the listeners well, I'm not doing anything. I'm listening. I'm receiving as well with the listeners. But what Alana has done for us is she's actually gone to her Akashic Council and she has downloaded some messages for the listeners. So, a collective message that you need to hear for the coming month of February, correct?
Yeah, it was kind of a general message. It ended up being a general message.
Let's go with
And
it.
really, yeah, it's sort of that message that because podcasts live for a long time, if you're not listening in February, this message is still applicable. Um, so this was more, yeah, it was more one just for the listeners, and it can be for whenever.
General message. I love it. But I don't
Yeah.
know why I had February in my mind. I was like, for the month of
we had talked
February.
about
Weird.
we had
Okay,
talked
there
about
you
it
go.
being February. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. And I actually hadn't even pieced it together that that's why it wasn't a super specific message for the month of February, because normally what I do is I pull a message for the collective, on my YouTube channel for each month. But we thought it would be really fun to do one for the listeners, and yeah, the message I pulled down was not specific to the month of February. And I mean, most of these aren't. Like, you can still get them for whenever. They're usually quite translatable to other times, but yeah, this one was specific to these listeners.
Makes total sense. So I would love if you could get into that message for us.
Yeah, and it's funny because for the most part, every single thing that we've already talked about is has come up with this message. So it's not going to be super long that I go into this, but basically the core that came through was that your listeners are really curious and they're really open to receiving this, like to partaking in their spiritual awakening. But something that comes with that I've really noticed with a lot of people is this whole piece where you're like, I'm so excited and I just want to get all the things, and then you go, oh my gosh, I didn't need to, like, you forget to put your boundaries up. You forget to set your intentions. You forget to protect your energy. You forget to do so many things because you get so caught up in the curiosity and the excitement of this journey. And the message that came through was faster isn't better, and you don't have to go deep right away. Be skeptical of what you're connecting to. So again, these are things we've already talked about. And it also goes for both physical and unformed energies. So those energies that we can interact with on Instagram, or that family members that we have in our lives, but also the energies that we're connecting with. It's really important for us to be skeptical of the motivations, or who is saying this, and what's their energy sending off, and put up those boundaries. Really understand that you are in control of that. um the other thing that I thought was just so cute was they explained it as like, there are so many souls that are awakening right now that it kind of feels a little bit like a race. And everyone's like, I've done this and I've done that and I can do this and I can do that. And it's like, no, it's not a race. We're all raising the vibration, but it's so important to do it in your own way, on your own time, with either your own guides or your own teachers that you really resonate with. Like, it took me a really long time to find Nikki. And I love, like, I love Nikki. I think Nikki is fantastic. And at the same time, like, not getting a master's with Nikki, like, it's so important to diversify the voices, and then not to listen to everyone else's voices, but to also take time and space to listen to your own voice. So take time and space to question, to integrate, to do your own work, because that's the other piece, is that this whole spiritual awakening journey, like, you can't just keep running around putting polish on things. You kind of have to do your own work. So you can't just keep learning from everybody, or taking on someone else's whatever it is. Like, I got one comment, someone said that they're like, oh, you didn't learn from Ra. And I was like, no, I really didn't learn from Ra, and nor will I be. That human design doesn't land with me. So it's this thing of like, you need to do your own work, you need to do your own practice, you need to put it into practice, and you need to take the space to listen to your own voice, because when you strip away everything else, you will be able to learn to trust yourself, and you'll be able to like know when something is off. And that again just goes back to the same conversation we were having earlier. You are your own best teacher and your own best leader. And then they were like, block and delete, block and delete, block and delete. Like, just block and delete.
I love that.
Like, no holds barred. And that's what I mean by boundaries, and that's what they mean by boundaries, is like, you don't put any energy into it. You get it and you're like, nope, block and delete. I don't need that. You can unfollow, you can decide that you're just not gonna, if it's somebody in your real life, you can set those boundaries with them. You can say, look, you know what, I'm just not interested in having those conversations with you, or that's not where I'm, a phrase that I've been using often, is, that's not where I'm choosing to put my energy right now. And if you've done any like money work, there was, instead of saying, I can't afford it, you say, I'm choosing not to spend my money on that right now. And it's just like, you just take the control back, you take the power back. I'm choosing not to put my energy there right now. I'm choosing not to spend money on that right now.
I'm just totally mind blown that those were the messages that you downloaded, because Alannah downloaded those messages last night and we didn't plan the podcast. We decided that we weren't going to speak. We were going to do the collective message first and then we were going to dive into it. And just naturally, like, just because this is how the universe works, exactly what needed to come out came out in that conversation. Like, I'm like, literally all of the points you hit, like, this was totally unplanned. That was the message. So
And it's crazy because like, normally my messages are usually very like tangible and forward looking. And this message, I was like, is this really the message that I need to be giving to these people right now? Like, is this really what we're going to use this platform for? But they were like, yeah, it is. So they sort of wrapped it up by saying, like, this group is so powerful. So if you're listening to this podcast, know that, like, you are incredibly powerful. And what seems to be happening is that there are negative influences that are trying to like distract you. They were saying divert and distract and throw you off your path. So it like this is why that boundary work and trusting your knowledge and trusting your own intuition, your own inner knowing is so important. And where are you choosing to put your energy? You can care about something and choose not to put your energy there, or you can care about something, or you can care about someone or a teacher, and you can choose not to engage in a certain conversation that's taking place.
That is so
Just
powerful. No, I love that. Yeah, no, that it's so so true, and I love the I choose not to put my energy here, and I think that's something that we often get trapped in, especially when it comes to like going about your real life. And I think that's the thing, right? We learn all of these spiritual concepts and tools, but actual practical application of these tools, that's where like we get stuffed up, right? And it's just like, oh, like how do I be this multi-dimensional being in such a like a 3D place?
and this is the thing is that we as multidimensional beings have decided to be and experience 3D. We can live so many lifetimes in a non 3D experience. And I'm sorry, but if you're here right now, you chose to experience life in the 3D. Now, that doesn't mean that you chose everything that's ever happened to you. Like I don't like that piece of like I again, this goes into the nuance. But I do firmly believe personally that we are multi-dimensional beings, and some of us live a lot of human lives, some of us live a lot of non-human lives, the whole thing. But if you are on this planet listening to this podcast right now or watching this YouTube right now, you as a soul chose to experience a human 3D experience. And in that, there are lessons that your soul needed to experience and integrate in a 3D dichotomy, like 3D black and white kind of experience. And that's a big commitment. And as you're going on your spiritual awakening journey, a lot of the times we find out that we're a star seed, or we have all these past lives as royalty or whatever it is, and we get really hung up on those labels and we escape out. And the reality is that the work is to be here, the work is to be human, and integrating being human and having these human experiences is not to be taken lightly.
I
Sorry.
love no, I love that you no, it's so powerful because I love that you highlighted that it's a choice. It is a choice to be here, and that is taking back your power. Even that like slight perspective shift, like you weren't put here, you chose to come here. So what are you going to do with this life now? You chose to have this experience. How are you going to make it the best possible experience you can have, regardless of your situation and your circumstance, because it really is the power of perception. So yeah, I love that you highlighted that. There was something that I wanted to get your opinion on. I'm just really curious. So, you highlighted in that message of, the distraction that's being put on the listeners at the moment, like, through these external things, whether it's in, what's happening around the world or family things, whatever, if it's a personal thing or a global issue, regardless, they're distractions, right? So, with these distractions, you had mentioned to just, block and delete, get rid of it, right? Don't pay attention to it. Do you look at that as spiritual bypassing? Curious to
Mm.
get your opinion.
So, Good question. Um, the it's the energy that you perceive it with. So if you're not looking at something to brush over it and to um, ignore it, um, then and not even look like, is there growth here for me? That is spiritual bypassing, yes. However, if you look at the issue and you say, that's just not something I need to do work on. So the other thing that one of my other like to live by mantras is plays into this really well. So it's a kind of a 3-part question. And the first question or 3-part question series. The first question that I ask is this my work or is this someone else's work? So, is this something that I need to experience? Is this something that's going to help with my growth? Is this a blind spot that just keeps on showing up? Am I the common denominator here? Like, is this my work? Am I the common denominator?
Yes.
And then, why does this keep showing up? Because you keep not doing it.
Simple. You keep not doing
Simply
it.
put.
Here you go.
Yeah, this is your work. So the first question is this mine or is this not mine? Is this someone else's? If it's someone else's, do I want to partake in them learning this lesson? Like, do I want to be here and help facilitate and help work them through this lesson? So this is the like, are you a doormat? Are you are you giving too much of yourself to somebody else? Are you people pleasing too far? So that's one piece of it. The next one is it your work to be done? And if it is, you look around you and you go, is this the situation that I want to do this work in? So do you want to help the other person do their work if it's theirs? Or do you want to do this work in this situation if it's your work? So you recognize that it's your work, but you don't feel that the situation is conducive to it. But you know that you're the common denominator, so you know that it's your work and you know that it's going to show up in another area of your life. So when I'm looking at spiritual bypassing versus this, like block and delete versus spiritual bypassing, what I'm looking at is this my work to be done? No, it's not my work. This is somebody else's freak out that someone else is having. Like someone else is having a moment of panic and freak out. Wow, that really sucks for them. Do I want to put my energy into that? No, I don't. I'm not connected to them. I don't want to put my energy there. That's fine. They can deal with it in another way. I don't need to be part of it. Or, oh wow, that's bringing something up for me. What is that bringing up? It feels like that's triggering this something else. Damn it, that's a pattern. That's my work to be done. Do I want to do it around these people or in this environment? Yes or no? And then you either do it there or you notice another area that you can do it in.
Beautifully said. Totally agree with everything that you said. It's like, yeah, is this a pattern that plays out in my life, or is this completely unrelated to me? Don't feel like I need to put my energy there. And I always go with like the first feeling as well that you get from the situation. So with that first feeling that comes up, is it a personal thing, or do you just feel neutral to it, and then other people's opinions and thoughts kind of start to take over and then start to kind of cloud your own judgment? So I really
Yeah.
love to go with that first feeling. I feel like that's a really like potent way to actually use your intuition as well. It's always that like first initial gut feeling that you had.
Yeah, and sometimes it can take so long to figure that one out and listen to that one. And again, this is where, as much as I say human design isn't the be all and end all, I always go back there because it does really resonate with me. And so when I look at the authorities in human design, we all have a decision maker. And then one of the ones that what I like to do is I like to layer the decision makers. And so if there's one that really hits hard or is kind of quiet, then you can kind of like you can go back to that one, you can understand it. But if you don't know so if you're listening to this or watching this and you don't know how you make decisions, I invite you to look at human design, but as I invite you to look at human design, I also invite you to not treat it as a be all and end all. It just like all these other tools, it is a way to help you pick different things that help you. I remember I was going to say something earlier. It helps you to use language, or it gives you language to better understand those things that you've always known about yourself. So those pieces of the puzzle that you just know about yourself, but other people are telling you to change, it'll give you language to describe why your energy works a certain way, or how you best interact with the world around you, or whatever that is. And it might not be human design, it might be another tool, but it can help you with that.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful as well. And I think I forget how difficult it can be for people to follow their intuition, because we've trained to hear that voice so loud and clear through that soul teacher training, right? It was just that's what helped me personally. That's what got me so comfortable with the ego and the my intuition, because I got to see, what was what. So it's really interesting how like different things can help different people. But again, use this what we're saying right now to be like, okay, I'm going to try this, see if that resonates. I'm going to try that, see if that resonates. So you really have to, yeah, be discerning and of your own energy and what feels right to you, and not try to take everything on. So before we finalize today, because we're coming to the end of an hour, I've taken so much of your time, but I always ask this question on the podcast, and I've completely skimmed over it. So, I'm going to ask it now, but when did you first come out of the spiritual closet?
I was like, whoa, we jumped right in, but it's, we jumped right in. That's what we do. Um, Apparently two Scorpio
Scorpio
moons.
moons, yeah. Maddie Jen, Scorpio
We
moons,
went deep real fast.
really
Surprise.
fast.
As much as I say that, my astrology doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
Actually, so I call him my godfather, even though we weren't religious in any way, shape, or form. And But he was an astrologer. My mom was a hippie. I call him my godfather. Was an astrologer. Um, I grew up with like Wiccan celebrations, and the solstice, and the whole thing. So when did I come out of the spiritual closet? Never.
Can I
As
have
in,
your childhood? What?
I was never in the spiritual closet.
I'm so
um,
jealous.
So that said, though, just like every child, I rebelled, and so I was 100% like, again, we meditated first thing in the morning. My mom would buy me like witchcraft books. I had crystals. My astrology was done when I was born. Like, we all knew everything about me from the get-go, as far as all those sorts of things are concerned. And then I went to a tea leaf reader when I was like 10 years old, told me I would not be a good family lawyer. She was right. Uh, and then when I went away to university, I would say I probably went into the spiritual closet. I took a very like traditional path, trying to get away from poverty. And then came back out of the spiritual closet. Again, I did a real bad job of hiding myself in the spiritual closet. I was always the friend that people would come to and ask advice from, and I yeah.
Okay, I'm so curious to know now. So, how did you go from, yeah, I get the whole rebelling. I probably would have done the same. I'm like, I'm jealous. I want that. But I probably would have done the same. Just to be like, nah, stuff you. You can't tell me what to do. I'll do what I want. So, it's so funny that you went, like, that's such an opposite story. And I love it. But then you went to college, and then you came back out of the spiritual closet. What triggered that?
I mean, I think it's that whole thing that so many of us are experiencing, where you follow the path that is laid out in front of you. The Get good grades, go to university, get a degree, get a job for a good organization, start paying into your RRSPs or whatever your retirement fund is called in your country, And and then you look around you and you're like, so that was boring.
That's to put it lightly.
Like, and unfulfilling to say the least. And I mean, I have a feeling that anyone listening to this podcast is going, or watching this, is going to know that, like, you have that little inkling that's hanging out inside of you. And you may have had that experience in your childhood. You may not have, but, or you may not have the knowledge of it, but you can feel that, like, am I just, am I just here to be human? Like, as much as I say, like, we're here to be human, and you're here to be human, but you're here to be human and evolve. And some people are here to just be human. Like, for real, some people are here to experience humanity, being human, experiencing tactile relationships, experiencing what I've been calling formed energy. And some people are here at this particular time to experience being human and elevate the energy, move the collective forward. And I guess I just always kind of had that. And I got to that certain point in my life and I was like, oh, okay, well, we're going back. But it never went away. That's the thing, is it never went away. Like, I may have rebelled, but I still have my crystals. I still have my fairy cards. I still have my tarot deck. Like, it never went away. It just has gone through seasons of how pronounced it is in my life.
Absolutely. Okay. I totally get it now. As life does do that to you, right? You go on that path and you're like, ah, what the fuck was that? I'm going to change
Yeah.
that.
And a lot of people I've been noticing, like the younger generation, like who are just like starting to have kids, if that's what they're doing, but they're like waking up as they're pregnant, is really like bringing it forwards for them. Because I think there are these different points in your life, and it might be like partway through getting that really coveted job for whatever reason, or it could be getting married, or it could be having children. But there are these points in life where you kind of have that moment where you're like, huh, there's more. I guess we used to
Yes.
just call it the quarter life crisis or the midlife crisis. So you're like, oh, there's more. And then you try and fill it with material items or experiences, when in reality, what's happening is that your soul is like, hey, about this life thing. Let's do some more. And it's trying to like wake you up to the elevation journey that you're on.
Beautifully said. Love everything that you said. No, it's so, so, so true. And I love even that you highlighted that some people are here just to experience life. And that's okay as well. Like, there is no right or wrong. You know, we all have our different reasons for being here. So, yeah, I truly believe, obviously, everyone here listening to this or watching this, you know, light workers, star seeds, here to lift consciousness up, right? Do that ancestral healing and that trauma work and all of that in order to actually, yeah, lift consciousness. But that gets to look however it needs to look for you. Whether that's like a career thing that you go after, whether that's just a personal thing that you do, like it's just so different for everyone. So, yeah, I think that that's a beautiful way to conclude our conversations today. So,
So
I,
well
you know,
put. Tangents.
right? Before we say bye, though, I would love it if you could just let the listeners know where they can connect with you and, you know, work with you.
Yeah, so I am at the simply.ca or the simply ca on all platforms, and everyone has been asking me recently. Okay, I feel like that influencer. That's like everyone's asking me this. Okay, like a few people have asked me. Let's be truthful. A few people have asked me, what's the CA for? I live in Canada, and that's our extension. So like .au for Australia, or EU for the EU, like .ca is our extension. So when I went and I bought my domain, I bought thesimply.ca, and then I just took that, went on to all the social media platforms. So every social media platform except TikTok, because I am not a TikToker. You can find me at the Simply CA. So you just take out the dot. Otherwise, my website is thesimply.ca. And you can find me on YouTube mostly is where I'm the most consistent. And on my website, you can book a reading, whether that be human design or soul alignment. And then I also do soul alignment coaching. So if you want like a longer term commitment and you want someone to be there with you through your journey, you can book on there and we can connect. Otherwise, one off sessions work just fine.
Perfect. And you know what? I was actually going to ask you what the CA stands for when you started explaining that. I was wondering, I was like, what does that stand for? I've always wondered. So there you go. Okay, it makes total sense.
It used to be Simply Life Food Fitness. And
Ah.
nobody could understand, like, because, hi, my name is Alannah. I'm a manifesting generator. I can't put myself into a box. So it was either I'm going to use my name or I'm going to use like a something that encompasses everything. And whenever anyone asks like what do you do really well, and my friends will always say like you explain complicated things really simply, or like you just make things really simple. And even though it's not black and white, it's like multiple shades, it's still like here's the core of it. um and so yeah, I was like, well, my name is not simple, so let's make it simple. And yeah, so then there's the Simply, everything done simply.
I love the origins of that name. That's awesome. Honestly, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much again for doing this a second time with me. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for doing the collective reading for all of us. It was honestly something I definitely needed to hear as well. So, yeah, I'm just so appreciative of your time. And thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me again. Thanks for reaching back out. It's nice to connect with you. Yeah, I really hope the message makes sense, and I love that you're doing this and bringing it out to the world, and having so many diverse, like having so many different people bringing their unique versions of these conversations and experiences. Because I think, going back to what we said, this the whole conversation, we all have our own journey, and the more that we can look to see that not everyone's journey is the same, the better it is for all of us, and the easier it is for all of us to like just stop trying to do what everyone else is doing and do your own thing. So thank you so much for bringing these conversations out into the world, and it's been a pleasure connecting with you again and chatting. So thank you.
You're so kind, and thank you for being a part of these conversations. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Have a great day. Mwah.